Hi guys, the Metal Maniac back again, and in this video I'm going to be doing a review of the demo Freezing Moon / Carnage by Mayhem. This is their second demo and it was released in 1990. So before I get into songs, I'm going to name off the band members really quick. Euronymous on guitar, Necrobutcher on bass, Hellhammer on drums, and Dead on vocals. So this review might be a little bit short, considering that there's only 2 songs on here, but, you know, I'll do the best I can, try to make it at least more than, like, 3 minutes, maybe the 4-minute mark, but we'll see how this goes. I'm not used to making videos, in terms of, reviewing things that only have, like, 2 tracks, so, anyway, so, I'm just get right into it. Anyway, so the first song on here is, of course, Freezing Moon. Now, something before I get into that, something I forgot to mention is that this is the only proper studio recording, with Dead on vocals. Of course, there was, you know, a lot of live stuff, as well as some, very raw rehearsal, recordings. But this is the only proper set of studio recordings. Anyway, so first up is Freezing Moon. This is probably my second favorite version of Freezing Moon. Of course, my first favorite version is, of course, from Live in Leipzig. And then this is my second favorite. Yeah, I mean, this is great. This one is kind of unique, for 2 reasons. One, oddly enough, this version of Freezing Moon doesn't have Dead's famous intro bit before the song actually starts. The second thing is the fact that it has a slightly different vocal approach. I mean, along with the second song, but maybe it's because it's studio and it's not live, so Dead doesn't have to, you know, project his voice that far. So he doesn't have to, you know, sort of like do too much with it. But his vocals are definitely slightly different. In fact, they're a little bit more sort of raspy. Kind of similar to his vocals when he was in Morbid, although they're not so similar to that, but they do still have a little bit of more of a rasp to them, rather than like a sort of more of a growl shout kind of thing that that's, you know, unlike Live in Leipzig and stuff like that. But again, I more contribute that to the fact that with the live stuff, you know, a live audience, he has to, you know, because of the big area, he has to, you know, project his voice a bit more, so he has to put more sort of a shout into it. Whereas the studio version, I guess, he just doesn't have to, you know, do that much, make it that, you know, loud. Yeah, I mean, just the way the vocals are done on this particular version of the song, they're a bit more sort of, they have a little bit more of a coldness to them, like a very sort of a chill to them. I guess they're a bit more, I want to say, atmospheric, which I don't know if that's sort of the right term, but they have just a bit more sort of that cold feel to them. Not to say that his vocals on the other versions don't, but I think the slightly different style, the ever so slightly varied style he does on this version, kind of helps with that, you know, just feel that sort of cold and sort of isolated feel to his vocals. But yeah, the instrumentation also on this is great. Everything sounds great. The drums, the bass, the guitar. And yeah, it's just a very good sounding version of the song, and I'd say it's probably the best sounding version, again, other than Live in Leipzig. But in terms of actual, like, non-live version, this is the best. Yeah, it's just a really, really amazing version, and it has sort of I like it because, again, it has sort of a slightly different vocal approach. Yeah, it's awesome. All right. Next up is the song Carnage, which is the second and last song on here. This is by far my favorite version of the song. It's sort of it's sort of a slightly faster version than what I'm really used to for the most part, because the song I'm used to the most, even though I guess it's really only that particular recording for some reason, but the version I'm used to is the Live in Leipzig version, which for some reason they play the song at a slower speed. It's not very noticeable unless you're very familiar with pretty much all versions of that song. Pretty much any other version of Carnage, they play it at like the normal speed, which is a lot faster. But for some reason, Live in Leipzig, it's not a lot. It's slightly slower, but not noticeable unless you really pay attention. And I usually, I usually listen to that version mainly because Live in Leipzig is usually the go-to Mayhem album for me whenever I want to listen to something Mayhem related. Yeah, this is I guess most people would call it the proper version because it has, the speed of basically every other version. Yeah, it's really cool. I do like, both variants. I don't know why they played it slower on Live in Leipzig. Yeah, it's really, really good. Again, Dead's vocals with that slight sort of variation of the usual thing you would hear from Dead. They sound great on here. And they kind of use a slight sort of reverb effect on his vocals. It's very slight, not too noticeable. It's sort of just like you could only really make it out if you're really very intently paying attention. Like, it's sort of just a slightly added sort of layer, sort of an effect. And it's done really, really well. The other instruments are again top notch as well. Although I will say the reason why this version is my particular favorite, one, because it's a lot faster, and two, just because of the way Dead does the particular bit sort of near the middle and end. There's just a bit more extra ferocity in his vocals. Again, towards the mid to end portion of the song, sort of that extra evil sort of weight to it, compared to pretty much any other version with him on vocals. I don't know if they were able to do that just because it's a studio version. They're able to like mix it, I guess, properly, or mix it a certain way. But there's that sort of end part where his vocals do ramp up quite a bit and have that extra ferocity, whereas most other versions that he's on that he does this song aren't like that. Yeah, it's just a really good version of the song. My favorite version. Also, there's this really sort of weird bit. I don't know if it's because of the way it's mixed, but there's this really weird sort of slight bit at the very beginning where it sort of slightly for a few seconds sort of the audio dips down and then dips back up. But that might just be a fault in the copy I have. I don't know. I mean, it lasts for like maybe 3 seconds, but that's really about it. And that's my only complaint about it. But again, it's probably just a fault in the particular copy I have. But whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, so those are really the only 2 songs on here. But again, it's just a very brief demo. Anyway, so the artwork. The artwork itself, oddly enough, was done by their former vocalist Maniac. Which is very interesting because when you really think of Maniac, you usually think oh, he's one of the previous vocalists. You don't think oh, he's connected to a really amazing artwork on one of their releases, which it is very amazing. I mean, it's very simplistic, but it's done very well and it's just very detailed. Just the texturing and everything. It's a basic concept, but done very very well. You get a skull there with swords going through it, um, and you get two pentagrams in the eye sockets and like a inverted cross on the forehead of the skull. But yeah, very simplistic, but done very very well. And then you get the Mayhem logo in black up there. There's not really anything on the back except for the credits and the track listing. So with my overall thoughts, this is by far one of the best things Mayhem has ever released. Okay, so to mention something, back when I did my ranking of the Dead era albums within Mayhem, I didn't have this on the ranking. Unfortunately, I didn't because I didn't know of this thing's existence at the time. I don't know why I just didn't know of it. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna sort of do a. Actually, I was thinking of doing a video, maybe after this or maybe a couple days later, where I'm gonna rank all the classic era Mayhem releases, from 1986 all the way to 1994. Just have a bigger sort of ranking list, I guess, and sort of slightly updated one. But anyway, yeah, I didn't know this existed for the longest time. And I'm glad I did eventually stumble across it because it's just absolutely amazing. And unfortunately, it's the only proper studio recordings we get from the Dead era. But they're absolutely awesome. Now, unfortunately, this release does have the issue that I really hate in terms of record companies doing this. It was limited to a certain number of releases, 100 releases to be exact, and yeah, I hate that. It was kind of tough finding one because for whatever reason, most of the listings on Discogs, I couldn't find it on eBay, but in terms of Discogs, almost all of the listings, at least at the time I bought this, were used copies. But there was like one or two. This is one of the only two at the time that was a mint condition that was never opened or played. But yeah, I just found that to be kind of odd. But anyway, overall, this is, even though it's super short, very brief, it stands out as one of the best things they ever released. And honestly, it's absolute perfection. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. I'd definitely rank it up, at least in my top 5 as, one of the best Mayhem releases ever. But yeah, it's 10 out of 10. If you could track one of these down, definitely do so, because it's definitely worth, your money, and definitely worth, listening to again and again for, however long you want, But yeah, I absolutely love it. Alright, so that's about it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.